Hello everybody, it's Dakota, and I am talking to you today about my final project, the potential brownfield remediation and recreation locations in Harrison, New Jersey. So what is a brownfield and why are they important to us nowadays? A brownfield is defined as a property, the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse of which may be complicated by the presence or potential presence of hazardous substance, pollutant, or contaminant, as defined in Public Law 107-118 in 2002. So going over a brief history of the area of Harrison, New Jersey, the town of Harrison was actually established in 1840, although there were local people living in the area beforehand, and the Unami tribe also resided in this area as well, which was an offshoot of the Lenni Lenape Indians. The town actually had been part of multiple other small towns prior to that, and later on they split off and finally formed what is now known as Hudson County. This area is particularly important to trade because it was located along the Passaic River, which is in close proximity to Newark, New Jersey, and the Passaic actually was a connector route for Phillipsburg to Jersey City as it was part of the Morris Canal back in the day. So this area was really known as the beehive of industry. So a number of different industries that were involved in this area. We had places like the Edison Lamp Company, so light bulbs were particularly important. The old factory is actually right down the street from my house, and this is a present day image of what the old factory looked like. It had been changed over, renovated, updated for multiple purposes. So trade, steel, radio tubes were other large industries that were popular in Harrison. And then since the 60s, 50s, and 70s, current industries that have taken over include the iron foundry, there's a commercial baking factory, medical supplies, chemicals, and electronic goods are produced in Harrison, and the trucking industry is thriving. So why Harrison, New Jersey? I personally like the idea of reclaiming urban industrial lands that once had a purpose and changing them from other uses that are either environmentally sustainable for the area or are creating new infrastructure for people living in that area, as well as bringing in more people to that area and cleaning up the town. Reclaimed lands from brownfields are important in today's society. As cities grow and change, space is very limited, so taking back a space that's no longer used or important is very helpful to the local area. Harrison itself has gone through many changes in its history, and current plans for waterfront development are being discussed. And since space is limited in this area, it's a really good place to kind of see where a lot of these large industrial buildings used to be and how they are changing currently to this day. Also, I live in Harrison, New Jersey, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about where I was living. So my research question here is, why are brownfields in or near Harrison, New Jersey? What happened to these areas over time? What did they look like before? And what are some potential ideas for changing them and repurposing them in the future? So our study area is Harrison, New Jersey. This is a Google Earth image from the Google Earth Pro program. It shows you Harrison, New Jersey proper, as well as the area around the bend where a lot of our brown fields are. So before I actually decided I was going to settle down on Harrison, I was looking at previously collected data for brownfield redevelopment areas. And the New Jersey GIS Information Network actually had a data file for brownfield redevelopment areas that are not as contaminated as others, that can be repurposed, remediated, and changed into a new, have a new purpose. So there's actually two different types of brownfields. Brownfields that we're looking at are brownfields that can be remediated. They're normally larger industrial complexes. That's what a lot of the images that we're seeing here are. The first file that I found, brownfield site marts, are actually smaller commercial businesses, houses that have been foreclosed on, and much smaller properties. So sometimes the larger brownfields that need remediating and the brownfield site marts actually overlap with one another. But in this case, we were just going to focus on the brownfield redevelopment data, which is right here. So you can see that the area that we're going to focus on, Harrison, is that little curve in the Passaic River right in between Essex and Hudson County, where we have about 4 or 5 different brownfield sites that we can look at. Now, when I was collecting imagery, there were orthophotos on the the New Jersey GIS Information Network. There were orthophotos from 1995, so as you can see, there are a number of different things that you can notice that will change between 1995 and 2015. Here you don't see the Red Bull Arena, and here you see the Red Bull Arena in 2015, and a number of different parts of the industrial complex are missing. Unfortunately, I couldn't make my ortho photos work. I couldn't figure out why the geographic information coordinate systems were not working, so I ended up going and working with the Landsat 8 imagery and the Landsat 5 imagery that we used in class. The Landsat 8 imagery was the newer photos from 2018, and the Landsat 5 imagery, which we're looking at right now, is the older image from 2000. So you can definitely see the difference in quality between the Landsat images and the ortho photos. Now, if we look at the newer orthophoto from the newer Landsat 8 imagery from 2018, you can see there is a definite change where you can actually notice where the Red Bull Stadium is. Continuing on, we had to observe the change in the area over time and summarize what changes we saw over time. So, with the study that we did in class, I was able to look and see what kinds of changes were happening inside of our brownfield redevelopment areas. In all of the brownfield redevelopment areas that I was looking at, there really wasn't a lot of change overall. Most of the brownfield redevelopment areas actually display a no change symbol. And in fact, a lot of the surrounding areas actually had more change. So this can be due to the amount of plants that are being replanted. This can be due to the amount of urban spread as things are changing in Harrison to become more residential and more populated. So it's actually kind of interesting. We'll see in a few slides about how the general change overall, or the general trend overall, is that there is a lot of change happening in these two counties, just not in the areas that I was expecting them to have change. And now we're going to look at what local community projects are involved currently in brownfield change and what's happening in Harrison, New Jersey. So there is a waterways redevelopment plan from 2012. It was amended. It had actually been brought up earlier, but new changes had been started at this time. Harrison is actually planning on doing a couple of different things. There's hotels and apartments that are being built in Harrison currently. The PATH station, there was a grant given to New Jersey as well as in-state grants to change up the Harrison PATH station, make it newer, clean up this brownfield area that we are currently talking about. The Red Bull Stadium was added to the area as well, and further plans are continuing to remove some of the older industrial factories in the area, as well as create a river walk pathway for people to travel up and down along the Passaic. It's going to be a recreational area for people to go and enjoy, as well as a way of bringing more plants back into this area. And much more is being planned and done to create new urban areas in the older parts of Harrison as well. But it is important still that this kind of expansion, although we do see city populations growing and changing, it's still important to continue to remember to have this green infrastructure and save space for parks when we are planning for city plans. So I alluded to this earlier in one of the other parts of the presentation, that there was a lot more going on outside of just Harrison and outside of our brownfield sites that we were talking about. As you can see in the older parts of Hudson County, so that's the county to our right, you can see that a lot of change has not been occurring over the last 18 years. This is again the change between 2020 and 2018. And then you can see in Essex County that there has been quite a bit of change that has been going on. That is our green values in the left. And this is partially due to the fact that Essex County has become another outside area out of New York and Newark that people are starting to commute to and from to get into the city. So this is an area where a lot of residential areas have been built up over the last 18 years. This concludes my discussion and presentation on brownfield redevelopment sites in Harrison, New Jersey. Even though the study focused mainly on the area of Harrison and its interests in their own brownfield redevelopment plans, I would, if given more time, like to look further into the changes that have been occurring in Essex County, see what those potential causes might be on a larger scale, rather than just focusing on redevelopment here in Harrison, and maybe take a peek at some of the redevelopment plans currently going on here in Harrison in regards to their river walk, and maybe look and see if there's any plans on bringing back some of the species of seabirds that were native to the area at one point. Thanks again, everybody, for a great semester, and thank you for listening to my presentation today.